We've been hearing leaks and rumors about Apple making a foldable iPhone for years now, but for some reason, I always had my doubts about Apple actually going for it, since it's such a niche market. But we recently got some groundbreaking leaks that point to it actually coming, and coming sooner than we thought. So in this video, I'm going to be going through the history of foldable iPhone leaks and rumors to show how we got to where we are today, and then I'm going to discuss the most recent bombshells that were just dropped, so let's get right into it. Way back in 2016, Apple surprised everyone with a patent for a foldable iPhone using a flexible OLED display capable of being folded in half. And apparently at that point, they were already researching it for a couple of years since they originally filed for it back in 2014. And then that same month, we also got some patents for a foldable iPhone with a wraparound display. So this time the display folds backward, which is an interesting take. Shortly after that, we got some rumors that LG was going to supply Apple with foldable displays. And then the year after that, we got basically the same report coming from the Korean site The Investor. The very next day, Apple Insider discovered a patent for a foldable iPhone, this time mentioning the possibility of Apple using a micro LED display instead. Now jumping forward to 2019, we got some more patents showing that Apple's foldable iPhone could use a self-heating display. The whole point to doing this is because flexible displays are made out of plastic, and plastic can get very hard and brittle in freezing cold weather, so Apple would need to have a solution for that. Now, if you're wondering if people actually care about a foldable iPhone, a survey in 2019 showed that 35% of iPhone owners would pay up to $600 more for a folding iPhone, which is actually surprising, seeing as that would mean a price tag of over $1,500. Now finally getting into 2020, Apple patented a new hinge design that has movable flaps which work to prevent creasing in the display itself. I'm sure all of you have seen the Samsung Galaxy Fold and the massive crease in the middle of the display. Yeah, Apple is trying to avoid that. In April, we got another patent from Apple showing that they're working on flexible batteries for a foldable iPhone or iPad. Now, while it seems like Apple wouldn't need this for a foldable iPhone, the patent did actually mention the need for this type of battery alongside a flexible display. And then in June, Jon Prosser gave us an interesting bombshell, claiming that the foldable iPhone isn't really a foldable like we expected it to be. He said that the current prototype actually has two separate display panels on a hinge, which will definitely make it easier for Apple if they're gonna choose to go this route, but it won't be nearly as premium as we expected. Now moving on to even more patents from Apple, there was one in July discussing a part of the display always being visible even when the iPhone is folded, so there may be another display on the outside. And then in September, Apple asked Samsung Display for a large sample of foldable iPhone displays to test out the quality and hopefully reach a deal on supply. In October, there was yet another patent application from Apple, showing off a self-healing layer on the flexible display, which is going to be very important because, as we all know, the flexible plastic displays that Samsung used in the past had issues with scratch resistance. Later that month, we saw yet another patent focusing on making the display stronger to avoid cracking, which is essentially what happened on other foldable phones like the Galaxy Z Flip. And then finally, in November, we got our first rumor with a release date attached to it. According to China's United Daily News, Apple has asked Foxconn to test the folding iPhone for durability, and apparently they'll conduct over 100,000 opening and closing tests on just one phone. But the big news is that they expect Apple to unveil this foldable iPhone as early as September 2022. Now, just a couple of months back, Apple applied for yet another patent application showing a foldable device with geared hinges, which basically means that it could fold inwards and outwards, which I believe would be the best case scenario since you could either choose to view your display or you can have it closed up for safety. And then on New Year's Eve, it was reported that two foldable iPhone prototypes passed internal durability testing at one of the Foxconn factories, which is extremely good news since it shows that the release date is inching closer and closer. Now, with all of those older leaks out of the way, it's now finally time to transition into the most fresh leaks and rumors that we just got within the last 2 months. In January, we finally heard something about a foldable iPhone from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, which is one of the most reliable leakers out there. He mentioned that a foldable iPhone is now in the works, but unfortunately, he says it's likely years away, or ultimately may never be introduced, which sounds a bit disappointing, but based on all of the foldable iPhone patents that Apple has applied for, I personally believe that we will in fact see a foldable iPhone. Just a couple of weeks ago, we received a new report from the research firm Omdia pointing to Apple launching a 7-inch foldable iPhone with Apple Pencil support in 2023. This is very interesting because we've seen reports of Apple Pencil support coming to the iPhone a couple of years back, and I never believed them. But if you think of it in terms of a foldable iPhone, it totally makes sense to add Apple Pencil support. And now we have our final leak from yesterday morning, and this time it's from the famous Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, who is also very reliable. He says that Apple could launch a foldable iPhone with a 7.5 to 8-inch display in 2023, which basically matches what Omdia was saying earlier. However, he said that the foldable iPhone has not yet officially kicked off, which basically means that Apple hasn't decided to fully go forward with it. But if they do, we could see a 2023 launch if Apple is able to solve key technology and mass production issues this year. And now, with all of those leaks and rumors out of the way, I want to give you guys my own personal speculation on how Apple could handle the foldable iPhone launch. For starters, that was a ton of leaks, including many different patent applications from Apple, so I personally believe that we will in fact see an iPhone sometime in the future. Now, if I were to throw out a launch date, I would say that it's coming in 2023, sometime between February and April, assuming that everything goes well for Apple in terms of chip supply and everything else. And if you're wondering how I got that date, I have 3 main reasons for it. The first reason is that I believe Apple is going to want to put a brand new 3nm chip from TSMC into this new foldable iPhone. And we just heard some news yesterday morning that TSMC is on track to begin volume production of 3nm chips in late 2022. Reason number 2 is that I think that Apple is not going to release their foldable iPhone alongside the regular iPhone lineup in September, because there will be 2 flagship iPhones clashing with each other and taking away from each other's sales. So it totally makes sense to have the foldable iPhone launch half a year before or after the regular iPhone, pointing to a launch sometime near March. Now, what makes this even more probable is the fact that the iPhone SE was released in April of last year, and just yesterday, we received word that the next iPhone SE is coming in 2022, probably in April again, pointing to a 2-year release cycle in April for the budget SE. So what if Apple utilizes the opposite year to release the foldable iPhone on a 2-year timeline starting in the spring of 2023? That would make perfect sense because it would get a 3nm chip from TSMC, which would be very efficient and powerful. And finally, the third reason is of course because of all the other analysts pointing to a 2023 release date, especially Ming-Chi Kuo, so it becomes much more likely to happen. But other than that, I still think that the foldable iPhone is going to be more of a niche product, at least for the first couple of years. And I think that $1,500 to $1,600 is a pretty good estimate for the price, since Apple doesn't want to go too high. And I think the biggest advantage for Apple is that there are a lot of customers who simply buy the most expensive iPhone that Apple will give them, no matter the price. So why not make an even more expensive iPhone? And what better way to do that than to make a completely new foldable iPhone that turns into a tablet? And one thing I know for sure is that Apple's foldable iPhone isn't gonna have the same quality problems as other phone makers like Samsung. If Apple is doing it, then they're gonna do it right, and that's why it's taking so many years for them to create the foldable iPhone. So there you guys have it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you disagree with any of my speculation, go ahead and comment your thoughts down below, and click that circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one. Definitely check out one of those two videos right there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.